Hey everyone. Welcome to my channel, Deanna Travels. I have videos about traveling, advice, life, everything. Today, I'm going to talk about a serious topic. As you've seen on Facebook and Twitter, it's been all over the place. Everyone has been writing the hashtag #MeToo, and this is my story. I'm going to be sharing 4 stories of being sexually harassed in Southeast Asia on my backpacking trip this year. This trend, I don't even want to call it a trend because it's so horrible, but this trend kind of came around on Sunday the 15th. I'm reading from some notes. The actress Alyssa Milano wrote to Twitter and asked women to speak up and use the hashtag #MeToo. She said that this would show everyone the magnitude of the problem of rape culture and of sexual harassment and assault that every woman has encountered all the time, all over the world, sometime in their life. Just so I don't scare my friends and family, don't worry, this has nothing to do with rape. Thank God I've never been raped. So my heart goes out to anyone who has male or female, transgender, any gender. I'm really sorry. Also, these stories are not as bad as other stories I've seen around. I would say they're not that bad, but again, that's society kind of perpetrating this rape culture to make everyone think that it's okay and not that bad. So again, I'm gonna kind of go through 4 stories of this past year that different sexual harassments have happened to me. And I'm gonna start with the least bad stories to the most bad stories. So these first couple are kind of like a little more tame, okay? All right, the first story, Cedric and I were staying in Hue, Vietnam, and he was working as a programmer, which he does, on his laptop, but I wanted to kind of explore and go around town, but it seemed like a relatively safe area, so I just felt like, oh, I could go out on my own and everything. Everywhere in Southeast Asia has mostly been pretty safe for travelers. That's another point I gotta put out there. So I was walking around alone. It was in the middle of the day. It was kind of around near lunchtime, and it was a holiday time. I think it was Tet, so there was not that many people on the streets, and all the Vietnamese people were celebrating with their families, and there weren't that many travelers and backpackers around because the bus prices are really expensive for when Tet, the Vietnamese New Year, happens. And all of a sudden this guy came up to me on a motorbike and asked if I wanted to ride on the motorbike. And if this happened in America, that would seem very creepy if a guy asked you to hop on his motorbike, like what? But in Vietnam, this is a very normal thing. It's normal because they have motorbike taxis. So you as a traveler can kind of hop on the back of someone's motorbike and pay them like you would a taxi. So this part isn't really creepy at all because I'm like the only one there. He's probably like trying to make money, maybe to go out for the Vietnamese New Year's. But he kind of approached me and was like, oh, do you want to ride on the motorbike and pay for a motorbike ride? And then I was like, oh no, thank you. I'm walking, I'm cool. And then, instead of normally when that happens and you say no, people drive away. But this guy followed me and followed me and followed me. And at first he was talking to me as he was following me. Kind of like I was on the sidewalk and he was kind of like riding up next to me saying, oh, come on, I'll take you on a tour, it'll be fun. Oh, it's very cheap, good price, good tour. And I was like, no, thank you, no. And then I tried to start kind of walking a little bit faster, and he was following me with his motorbike. And he's on a motorbike, and I'm on my feet. So I was really starting to get nervous. There was no one else around, really, for me to go and talk to. And since it was the Vietnamese New Year, all of the establishments were closed. Not all of them, but many of them. So like my heart was like starting to race. I don't think I had internet on my phone at the time. which if you're in a foreign country, you should always get the data on your phone, because you don't know like when you're going to be in a situation like this or another kind of situation where you really need internet. Because my first instinct was, oh, I should text Cedric and tell him what's going on. But I didn't have any internet or any calling. He kept following me on the motorbike, and it was a few blocks. It was started off as one block, but then all of a sudden it seemed like 10 blocks later. And I was going around corners and trying to evade him, but he kept following me. So I was really starting to get nervous, really starting to think in my head, oh my goodness, my mom's right, I shouldn't have gone out by myself. Why did I do this? Maybe, am I getting abducted right now? I don't know. But then I thought of the idea to just tell the motorbike guy that I was meeting up with friends for lunch, because it was around lunchtime. So I kept saying, no, I'm meeting up with friends, no, I'm meeting up with friends, no. And then I kept looking. I thought, okay, if a restaurant is open, I'm gonna go in there and pretend to meet up with friends. So I kept walking, he kept following me, my heart. Finally, there's a place open with two other backpackers sitting kind of in an outside patio. So I told the motorbike guy, oh, here's where I'm going for lunch to meet with my friends. Okay, bye. And I actually went up to the two backpackers that were sitting having lunch, and I said, hey, I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but this guy has been following me on a motorbike for like 15 minutes, and I'm kind of really starting to get nervous. Can I pretend to sit with you so he goes away? And of course, they are very understanding. They were like, oh my God, sure, are you okay? Do you need to call anyone? But then the restaurant had Wi-Fi. I told Cedric to come meet me at the restaurant. He came to meet me on the restaurant, and everything was fine. So this wasn't actually technically a sexual harassment story, I guess, but it shows how prevalent this is in culture and society, that when someone's following you, that means you might get raped or assaulted. Like, that's kind of how the way things work. So that's instantly where my mind went to, instantly the fear level that I was at with that. All right, time for my second story, and it's not that long of a story, not even really a sexual harassment story either, so I'll go through it quickly. This was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and that's a really big city, and it's a really fun city, and I suggest everyone go to it if you're in Malaysia. But there are some roads and some streets that are very, 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 very creepy. Everyone that's a man that are on some of these streets in the area literally will glare at you and stare you down, like up, down, and it's like not good. It looks like they're gonna come attack you by the way they are looking at you. And it's every single guy, and it's a city, so there's a lot of guys walking around. And I kind of thought I was kind of imagining it at first, but then I was like, Cedric, Cedric was walking right next to me too. I was like, do you see everyone staring at me? And Cedric was like, yeah, I don't know, like, what the hell is their problem? It's literally everyone is like staring at you in a bad way, and I really don't like it, and it's making me upset. So Cedric actually got really upset by that too. All we had to do was ignore it. But yeah, that's kind of it for that story. Now I just thought of another story. So we're in a town called Kota Baru, and again, probably a lovely town in Malaysia, but there's a dress code there for the religion that you're supposed to cover your shoulders and cover your knees. So I really tried to abide by this dress code, and I actually wore Cedric's clothes. And again, this is an instance where I had to go out and get something by myself. And as I was walking down the street, someone drove by on the motorbike and cat-called and whistled at me. And again, not really sexual harassment, but I was just really shocked because I was no way sexy at all. I had like everything covered, but even like with everything covered, I still got catcalled. But anyways, so these are the two bigger, badder stories that really had me upset. This was in Kota Baru again. It is not really a touristy town, so we're kind of the only Westerners there. They had a market, and this is a market for locals, but always the markets are cheaper than the grocery stores. So Cedric and I thought, hey, let's go to the market and get some fruits and vegetables and, you know, cook or something. We went to the market. Everything was going totally fine, like normalness, you go to a market, you know. And then all of a sudden, one guy was staring me down very intensely for a while, and every time I would look back at him, because obviously it was a long time, so I eventually looked away, but every time I looked back at him, he was still staring at me. And then I thought, oh, let me just walk around and get away from him. Cedric didn't know what was going on at this point because it was just looking and everything. So then I started walking around, sorry, and the guy was following me. And he was starting to get closer, and everywhere I turned, he kept following me and Cedric. And again, Cedric, my boyfriend, is standing next to me. Oh, but then he walked by me and touched my oh, sorry for the profanity. He touched my butt, okay? And I felt it, and I looked at him, and he looked back at me and smiled. So then I knew that this was on purpose, and he was trying to follow me around and feel me up. And I was wearing leggings that day, which I thought was appropriate for the dress code of covering your knees. But then I started being self-conscious, thinking, oh my goodness, it must be my fault because leggings are tight on your butt and they might make it look appetizing to touch. So again, I blame myself, just like normal people. When people get sexually harassed sometimes, they think it's their fault, a lot of the times. So that was going through my mind, like, wow, I shouldn't have worn these tight leggings today. But that thought was put aside for, okay, we have to get out of here now before anything else happens. Cedric still didn't know what was going on, of course, at this point. Cedric was saying, let's go get something else over there. And then I was like, no, let's go this way. And we already have everything we need. We're gonna go home. And I said it really loudly so the guy who was still right next to us could hear. So then we walked away and Cedric asked, what happened? Like, why are you acting weird? And I told him, I'll tell you when we get home, because I was still afraid that the guy was following me as we were walking. I just wanted to, boop, go home right away. So when we were home, I told him exactly what happened, and Cedric was so upset. He was so upset that he didn't know what was going on, but there would be no way that he would know what was going on because it was there's no words going on. So I would definitely classify that as harassment because I got groped on purpose in public. Okay, so the last story is like the worst one, and I was very, very upset by it, and it like ruined my whole day. I almost started crying in the middle of a festival. This was in Siem Reap in Cambodia, which again, Siem Reap is an amazing place, has so many great tombs and temples, so much history, so much culture. It's a really wonderful place and everyone should go. That being said, it was also holiday time over there, and there was a big festival. So there was kind of like a parade going on, and I didn't want to stand because I've been standing all day at this fair. So I said, oh, Cedric, let's like sit on the ground next to the line where the parade's gonna come so we don't have to stand. So I was sitting on the ground, and I, again, was not sexy at all, had my shoulders covered, had my knees covered, a long dress, no, nothing, nothing like that. Which obviously doesn't matter because it's not my fault. It's the guy's fault. So Cedric didn't really want to sit, and he didn't feel like it, so he's like, oh, I'm just gonna stand. So I said, fine, I'm sitting. So I sat down, and there were some guys that were standing behind me, and I didn't really think anything of it of the time, because I was excited to go see a parade. So I was still sitting there, and then I start kind of hearing some laughter behind me. Still didn't really think of anything of it. And then I started hearing kissy noises, like, and like weird sucking noises, and I thought it was kind of weird, but I still didn't really like care or notice. But then it was like getting really weird, and it really felt like it was directed at me. And when I looked up to see what was going on, there's like 3 guys in the group, and one of the guys was staring at me and kind of feeling himself over his pants, like rapidly, if you know what I mean. And while staring at me and like making kissy noises and smiling, and like his friends were laughing. And this was even worse because I was sitting on the ground, and I'm pretty tall, so my head was literally at the direct level of his penis. So when I turned around, it was like that. I was so shocked that I didn't know what was going on until the last second. And I'm really happy that the guy didn't take anything out while I was right there, there, because it seemed like it was escalating because I heard giggles at first. So again, my heart is racing. I feel horrible. I feel embarrassed. I feel definitely sexually harassed. I instantly got up and dragged Cedric, pulled Cedric's hand and led him away from the festival, and I ran over to a tent where nobody really was, and I was kind of crying, like trying to hold back tears. And Cedric, again, poor Cedric didn't realize any of this was going on, was very shocked and asked again, "Why are you so upset? What happened? What happened? We were just about to see the parade. Are you okay?" So again, I had to tell Cedric the bad news. And he was again very upset, and trying to comfort me. And at this point, I think I was crying, trying to be quiet so nobody would really know what was going on. And I just couldn't get it back together, and I didn't feel like doing anything anymore that day. And Cedric and I got a taxi back home, and this was like supposed to be our big festival day, but I just couldn't do it. So we got our taxi home. I was really upset. I think I was like almost shaking after it happened, because it was like, it just could have been even worse than it already was. So yeah, we got home, and again, everything was fine. So those are my stories. Again, they're not as bad as some of the stories I've heard, but in these moments, some of them more than others, I was very scared and terrified that something worse could happen, or that it was my fault and I wasn't behaving appropriately for this culture that I was in, that I was visiting. And Cedric was very upset by all of this too, and he wished he could have done more if he knew what was going on. But it is important to share these stories. I have not told too many people these stories. I haven't even told my mom these stories. So Mom, I'm really sorry that you have to find out this way. But don't be worried, because I'm fine, and nothing really happened. So I'm sorry if some of you are hearing these stories for the first time, but I am not sorry at the same time, because that is the point of this whole movement of the #MeToo, is to encourage women to speak up about their sexual harassment and sexual assault issues, whether they're big or small. And it's not even small to be small, because that's how it gets worse and worse, is that we all think that small acts of these things are okay when they are not okay, and it kind of snowballs, Have you had any similar stories in Southeast Asia while backpacking? If you have not had these stories while backpacking, that's wonderful. I hope nothing like this ever happens to you, or nothing worse ever happens like this to you. But if they have, or they do, I am here for you, and everyone else is here for you and loves you, and you can talk to anybody about these things. So have a good night, everyone. Sorry for a serious, sad topic for my second video, but it was the time to share it, and I was gonna make a video about all of this anyway. So to all my little travelers, family out there, keep traveling and have a safe and happy trip. Bye.
When you're traveling in foreign countries, To find excitement or to find peace in the promised land where adventures are hanging on the trees, and you do not what you must but what you please. Yeah, then you know you are a backpacker.